Good afternoon and welcome back to our listeners and viewers on the roads back home and maybe during the lunch hour. You are tuned in with myself, Asi Hadovitz. I'm your host for this week on the Mid Morning Talk Show. We are coming to a close with our show, and we have our last interview with environmental justice activist at the Green Connection, Liz McDaid, Liziwe McDaid. Rather. I'm calling her Liz, like we're old friends, and hopefully we can become that post interview. Liz, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, nice to be here, and thanks for inviting me. I think yeah, and you can call me Lizzie, where it all goes.
Lovely. All right. All right. We're gonna tackle some deep environmental issues, but also, you know, just some of the social justice activism work that you've done, and maybe for listeners and viewers, you want to give them a background on your environmental activism at the Green Connection before we delve into the offshore drilling project case.
So I think just to summarize, the Green Connection is an eco justice organization. So we're very much looking at the social justice aspects of environmental issues. And I guess our most important mission is to ensure that communities at the ground have a say over decisions that affect them. And I think this is where we in this country, unfortunately, end up with like corporations like mining or other companies who come in and take do developments, and people don't really know what's going on. They don't know when approvals were granted, and they don't have a chance to raise their voices and their concerns. So the Green Connection works at that level to build the capacity of people to understand and be involved. And recently, we have focused on defending our oceans because there are thousands of families who depend on the ocean for a livelihood in terms of small scale fishing. And of course, anybody who's involved in the tourism business at the coast is also knows, if you just think back to COVID, what devastation can happen to livelihoods when you don't have tourism at the coast. So basically, what we're looking at is how do we ensure that we have livelihoods and economic development that is permanent, sustainable, and looks after the entire environment while we do so.
Thank you so much for giving us that insight on the Green Connection and also the current work you've been doing around oceans and tourism. Specifically speaking to sustainable economies. Today is World Humanitarian Day, so I should probably take a minute to also honor you and the work that your organization does. I know often as humanitarians that time doesn't really come to celebrate, given just the challenges that's consistently arising and communities that needs the work to be done. But I want to give listeners and viewers some background on this case before we delve into it. So this is regarding the offshore drilling project that was halted in landmark High Court victory for coastal communities against Shell and Total Energies. In a landmark victory for civil society and coastal communities, the Western Cape High Court has set aside the South African government's decision to grant environmental authorization for offshore drilling in Block 5, 6, and 7 along the southwest coast. Judge Manku Lockwood delivered her judgment on Wednesday, the 13th of August. Congratulations on your recent and powerful legal victory. The Western Cape's High Court decision to do this, obviously found that prior environmental impact assessments failed to fully assess the oil spill risks and the compliance with the coastal protection laws. They also failed to then, follow the climate implications and the community participation along with this case. So if you can maybe just shed light on this recent win and what was, the main core focus of the case.
So, what your listeners have probably never heard of is Block 567, or even knew that that the whole sea had been divided up into these blocks and basically leased off to oil companies to come and drill in the ocean. After a long process of engaging with this project and raising a number of issues, each time the Department of Minerals and Petroleum passed it. Then the environment minister, it was appealed to, also dismissed our appeal and said, no, it should go ahead. So we were forced to go to court. So when you go to court, it's not about raising the substance again. It's about checking whether the officials did their job properly. And the reason judgment is so important is because this judge laid out in fine detail exactly why her judgment is that the officials didn't do their job. And one of them, just to give an example, one of them is like, as you were saying, the oil spill model. So Total provided a general oil spill model that, the details of how they would prevent an oil spill, and what sort of oil and the how far it would go and all that would only be provided at some later date. So the problem was that later date doesn't involve any public participation. So we were just given a general oil spill model and said, okay, well, it might happen. We don't know yet. We'll tell you later. But they won't tell us later, or they won't give us an opportunity to see whether it's useful, whether it's actually going to be effective. When you drill a well, the pressure of the oil under the ground or under the ocean is such that it can come bursting out and under pressure. And it can go, depending on what sort of oil it is and the wind direction, it could go anywhere. So you need to get something called a capping stack. And the nearest one is in Saldanha, and it could take quite a few days. And if the coast is rough, how will they get that thing on a boat to where it's needed? So there's lots of factors, and the judge found that this is something that the public should have been able to look at, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So she said no. The other thing was that if you look at the impacts on fishing and other economic activities along the coast, she didn't know whether, she didn't have to rule what were those impacts, etc., etc. All she had to say was it done adequately? And she said no. And therefore, it wasn't sufficient for people to have had an opportunity to comment, and they haven't looked at what would be the worst case scenario. So they hadn't looked at what would be the impact, especially on small scale fishers. They just made an assumption that, it will be maybe 10% reduction. But, if your whole entire livelihood depends on you going to sea, and you can't go to sea for months, and any fish you catch are going to be affected by oil and you can't sell them, then that's going to be a major impact on your livelihood. And if nobody comes to your bed and breakfast or your cafe because there's oil on the beach, that's not just a minor impact. So that was one of the other aspects that came to core. And then the other most important thing for all of us in looking at these kinds of projects is what they tried to say was, well, this is only drilling. It's not going to be a production space right now. So in other words, if we're going to drill for oil or for gas and we're going to find it, then at some point we are going to bring it to shore and burn it for electricity, or we're going to sell it overseas. So, but we won't look at the impacts of that, the negative impacts of that, until we get there. And so the judge pointed out that's asymmetric. How can you look at the benefits, but you don't look at the impacts at the same time? And then how are you assessing the risks and the benefits if you don't look at them both? So
100%. Yeah.
That's really where it's so important, because it's like if you built a house and you just built the doorway, and now you know that when you build the whole house, there's going to be like impacts. But now you say, no, but we're only building a doorway first. We look at the rest later. But wow, look what a wonderful house it'll be. Well, it isn't a house until you do the whole house. Therefore, you have to look at those impacts first. And that's
100%. And that was
Yeah.
the core. Yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry to trip in there, but I mean, absolutely. And I think you explained it in a nice way to listeners and viewers in a very sensible way. That essentially there's always two sides to the coin. As environmental activists, you guys took up the other side, looking at both the economy for local communities at the coast, but also the public participation element, which is so
Mm.
crucial when it comes to big corporations. I think making decisions that that affects our environment. Speaking about our environment, what does this win, this court case win mean now for environmental governance in South Africa? Do you think that this is going to push towards more progressive climate justice politics and legal outcomes?
Well, it could be a legal precedent. So basically, our courts are not there to make policy. They're not there to drive government action. They are there as the fallback position when government does the wrong thing. So I think what this judgment has shown is that we now need to explain to government that, look, the processes you are following are not in line with the laws. And we have a
Mhm.
constitution, one of the best in the world. Our environmental laws are also really good, but we are not implementing them. And the courts are showing that. If you implement this properly, then maybe you won't make those kinds of decisions. You'll make them with your eyes wide open instead of with blinkers on. So I think that's for me a very important thing. So you can't now make decisions and just ignore the public. This is what these court decisions are very important for. Um, and putting a little notice somewhere where no one can see it and saying, no, we told them, they never responded, is not good enough, because the law says you must promote public participation. So I think that's really important. And my message to all of the listeners and viewers is keep your eyes open. And if you
Mhm.
see some sort of notice, go and have your say, because often people go, "Ugh, what's the point if I don't, still going to go ahead?" No, because that's what this judgment is about, is that no, we have the laws, we have the rights, and we need to exercise them. So we need to go there and make our voices heard.
Thank you so much for that, Liziwe McDaid, encouraging active participation and active citizenship, essentially, when it comes to the environment in our communities. We'll be back and speak more about fossil fuel governance, climate accountability, and what this means regarding transboundary considerations like Namibia after the break.
And advisory services from an award-winning firm? Look no further than the Belmont Mayer Group, your gateway to unparalleled investment and wealth management. At Belmont Mayer, we believe in the art of wealth creation, a meticulous process fueled by our unwavering commitment to excellence. With a focus on providing elite alternative investments and quality advice, we also pride ourselves on maximizing value for our esteemed investors, as seen through our consistent outperformance. Your financial success is our top priority. Join us at Belmont Mayer and experience the difference firsthand. Ready to embark on a journey of greatness? Contact us today. Reach out to the Belmont Mayer Group on 078 786 1698. Call or WhatsApp or email us at info@belmontmayer.com. Elevate your financial future with Belmont Mayer, where every detail matters.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations innovations. Call now on 042 203 1400 or visit quantu.co.za. The Quantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Make a conscious choice. Sip for change and support Palestine Drinks Africa. With every can, you help end the genocide and stand in solidarity with Palestine. Choose between our original or sugar-free options available in a case of 24. Every sip is a step towards justice. Every purchase a powerful message of unity and support for the Palestinian cause. Contact 082 888 1440 or 082 7739 556 today and be part of the change. Palestine Drinks Africa. Sip for change. Liberty for everyone.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Good afternoon and welcome back to our listeners and viewers. We are interviewing Liz McDaid, Liziwe McDaid, and we've been given permission to call her Liz for this interview, environmental justice activist at the Green Connection. We are exploring the offshore drilling project halted in landmark High Court victory for coastal communities against Shell and Total Energies. In the recent win of the case, the Western Cape's High Court's decision was to set aside the environmental authorization for offshore drilling in Block 5, 6, and 7, which marks a major win for coastal communities, transparency, and ecological integrity. Liz, again, thank you so much for being with us. And I mean, as we are slowly coming to a close for our interview, I want us to touch on what this case and the lessons that this case offers for the broader fossil fuel governance, for climate movements, but also for government accountability.
So I think what's important for this case is it highlights the need to really assess the full costs of our climate crisis. So every time we put more fossil fuels into the air and we burn more fossil fuels, we are making the climate worse. And the problem is that making it worse means more floods, more droughts, and we've already seen the damage that has happened in South Africa from the climate crisis, the extreme weather. And so we can't say we're untouched and we need to do something. So this court case really puts it on the map and says, when you make a decision, you need to make that decision having looked at the full climate implications of everything you're doing. So if you're going to drill more fossils, you first have to look at whether that's going to cause more damage. And obviously it will, and the full damage. And so that puts the emphasis on government, which now becomes part of good governance, is for government to make those decisions with all the information. They'll say they're going to go ahead, then that's going to obviously be challenged, because how can you go ahead with something that's going to not be in future generations' interests? So I think that's really important. That's what it means. And right now, today, as you said, it's Humanitarian Day. And today, it's also the Kick Total Out of Africa Day. So all over Africa, activists are standing up and saying, go away, oil and gas companies. We don't want you to drill in our waters.
All right. That's some powerful stuff coming from you there, Liz McDaid. And so we have total... what's the day called? Total Kick Out Energy.
Out of Africa, yeah.
Total Out of Africa. Get total out of Africa. Okay. Activists are just always so creative with their slogans. But I definitely think
Check the social
um,
media.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I
It's
definitely
needed.
think we can appreciate the context and also the victory of this
Mm.
case. What does this victory mean for transboundary considerations,
So,
especially looking at Namibia
yeah.
in particular?
So when we look at the ocean currents, what we see is the ocean current comes down the east coast, which is the Agulhas current, and then the west coast, it's the Benguela current that goes up into Namibia. So the modelers, so there's been some scientific studies which show even if you had an oil spill of KZN, that oil could end up going up the west coast. And so one of the issues is that can South Africa just carry on like this, knowing that there could be an impact on Namibia? And so our law says, no, you actually have to consider what could be the impacts on your neighboring country. And that obviously didn't happen in this case. So those are also a very important precedents that and important ones because the ocean is not like the land, it moves and water carries things. Ocean currents can take them all over the world. So in order to protect and defend our oceans, this is a very important thing, which says we don't just look at our own country, but we look at the impacts on other countries, neighboring countries as well.
Thank you so much for that insight and your take, Liziwe McDaid, environmental justice activist at the Green Connection. And indeed, all our oceans are connected, and so is our solidarity, celebrating World Humanitarian Day. Thank you so much for joining us, Liziwe.
Thank you so much for having me.